Coffee Crew, welcome back to all my besties. Those of you in the US, I hope you had a good 3-day weekend. I hope those of you who have kids, they didn't drive you too crazy. Before we get into today's episode, I want to start with a shout out to someone who I think 1,000% deserves it. Now, I've mentioned Zach Cohen before. He's a registered dietitian. He creates low-calorie, high-protein, budget-friendly recipes. And I think what he puts out is worth a follow. Now, recently, Zach shared on his pages and in his Facebook group that after dealing with some health issues, he went in for some tests and he has been diagnosed with thyroid cancer. It has also spread to his lymph nodes on the one side. And they're actually testing him to see if it's gone anywhere else. Now, this is the second time Zach has had cancer. When he shared this, some people unfollowed him. And I understand for some people, seeing a cancer diagnosis can be like a trauma trigger. And that's a valid reason. What upsets me is he's been getting awful comments. Because in his recipe, sometimes he'll do things like canned chicken. Whatever your stance is on nutrition, he does it because he knows that for some people, that's all they can afford. And he wants to show them how they can take what they can afford and make a tasty, healthy meal. And these people are getting up there and telling him he deserves it. My brother's a cancer survivor. Cancer is way more complex than that. And I also know what it means to have people show up during fighting something like that. So if you're looking for a new follow, like I said, you can find Zach Cohen on whatever social media platform you use. If you want to support him further, he has a Patreon. He has free recipes, and then he has a paid tier. Now, me personally, I think the $5 a month, well, I pay yearly, but is worth it. Because he'll add at least 3 to 4 recipes a month. And then you also have access to all his old recipes. But even if you can't swing that, I get it. If you could just go follow him and, like some of his posts, give him some engagement. He's doing great work. He's helping people the best he can. And he deserves people in his corner right now. Now, we are in our next to last episode, so I'm going to get off my soapbox. We have one more after this, and that will wrap up our suit of wants. So today we're going to be talking about relationships. And no, I don't just mean like the romantic kind. Relationships come like coffee creamer. It's in different flavors. There's ones you choose, ones that choose you, ones you were born into, ones that last lifetimes, ones that, end after a short period. And then there's the relationship you have with yourself. And that relationship is like the paintbrush that colors all the other ones in your life. Now, when most people hear the word relationship, our kind of default goes to romantic. And yeah, romance is a part of it, but the category is so much bigger than that. And I think we almost do ourselves a disservice by only focusing on the romantic one. Yeah, Hollywood focuses on that one, but our life is built up of so many more relationships outside of just that. Friendships are relationships. And friendships come in more colors and flavors than we give them credit for. Some can last decades. Some are only for a season. Some fade, and that's just a part of life. People change. Life steers us in different directions. And a friendship that was everything to you at one point can quietly become a Christmas card that you're not sure if you are still going to send it. I'm going to do a side note here. Please don't send me Christmas cards. Really. I am not a card person. So save a tree and leave me off your list. Like, because I'll open a card and then I don't know what to do with it. Am I supposed to keep it? If I do, how long? Like, how long is it okay till I can throw it away? Do I have to go out and buy and mail you one in return? Who needs the pressure? Send me a text, a meme. I'm good to go. That's all I need. Okay, back to topic at hand. There are ones that don't need that constant diva maintenance to stay as a real relationship. My platonic soulmate, James. Longtime listeners known him from Stitch Happens Trunk Edition. We don't talk often, but when we see each other, it's a great big hug and we just start bullshitting like no time has passed at all. Those are the relationships that are worth knowing, and they are my favorite ones. All love, no pressure. Then you have your parent-child bonds, and those are relationships too. And honestly, they're the most complex, life-altering ones. We have to navigate them because we didn't choose them. We're born into them. You know, they come with us like a bundle package. You had to buy the thing, but the thing was only available in the bundle package. Now, I have gone no contact with my parents. And I'm not going to get into the details of that because that's an entire episode worth, and I don't know how public I want to make that. But I will say this. There are things from my childhood that hurt me deeply. There are things that as a parent, I don't agree with myself. And at the same time, with age and distance from the situation and knowledge, I can see the logic behind some of the choices they made. Now, that does not erase the hurt or their unwillingness to acknowledge it. But it does add another layer to it. And honestly, most parent-child relationships kind of live in that murky gray space. It's kind of like it's a place where love, hurt, distrust, and confusion all live together. And if you've ever painted with watercolors, when you mix all them colors together, you get murky gray. And then there's a relationship with yourself, which I'm arguing that's the paint-covered paintbrush that paints all your other relationships. I spent a good chunk of my life really hating myself. It took a lot of years and a lot of work to get to a place where I'm okay in my own skin. Now, I faked it for a long time. Like, people didn't always know. I was good at that. But to genuinely be okay took a lot of work. And the weird thing about finally getting to that place where you're okay is how many fewer fucks I give about other people's opinion. You know, like RuPaul said on one episode of Drag Race I watched, other people's opinions of me are none of my business. And that's one of those quotes that sticks with me, you know, like my therapist's not a reliable source of information. They're kind of my go-tos. When you know who you are, the noise gets quieter. You don't need that external validation as much because you already have it. You know, it's like you don't have to love me because I love me. And that's all that matters. We tend to pour our energy into relationships that demand the most from us and neglect the ones that run quietly in the background. And that's not always wrong. You know, sometimes a relationship needs more time and work than others. When you're dating someone new and you're trying to build a life together. That takes a lot of your time. When you have a newborn and you can barely function. When a parent is sick, other relationships get less attention. And that's real life. The key is making sure the ones that you're neglecting know that, you still care, even if they're not getting the most of you right now. And this is where you can give grace. If you notice one of your friends is in one of these situations, you can know that they love you. They just they don't have the brain capacity for you right now. And don't get angry about it. Most relationships don't fit neatly into one category. Like all things in life, nothing's simple. Whether it's a healthy relationship, a toxic relationship, a little bit of both, they all tend to live in the gray at some point. And gray is where most of the work actually happens. Okay, time for our weekly Stitch Happens, where I tell you a real life chaos story. Now, this one did not happen to me. It happened to my brother. Because of the chaos, it's become almost like a family lore story, one we love to tell. And that puts it into Stitch Happens material for me. So when my brother was little, he had a relationship with bad luck that I can only describe as an extremely one-sided committed relationship. Meaning it loved him, but he did not love it back. And nowhere was this more consistent than when he went anywhere with our Uncle David. Now, Uncle David loved to get us kids together and take us on hikes and go out in nature, do all the go out and touch grass stuff that they kind of recommend you do now, like it's a daily vitamin, which, fair. But every single time my brother went somewhere with my Uncle David, my brother got hurt. Now, the degree of which he got hurt could vary, but it wasn't a coincidence he got hurt. It was just a painful pattern. So this one weekend, my brother and a bunch of my cousins went out to my Uncle David's property. He owns this wooded property. He's built a barn. He had a big area for a bonfire. We'd have family picnics out there. Uncle David's a carpenter. So he had actually built this really tall treehouse for my cousin. Platform was really high up. He had steps, railing, the kind of treehouse that kids always dream about. And something in their brains, I guess, told them it would be the perfect area to play tag in. Now, like I said, Uncle David had put up railings because he was a responsible adult, kind of, who understood risk. What he could not fully account for was the fact that 6 and 7-year-olds are small. So when you have gaps in railings, they're not exactly child-proof when a kid is running at full speed as if the hounds of hell are chasing him. Now they're doing what kids do, chasing each other around the treehouse. Full chaos. No regards for personal safety whatsoever, because they're kids. Who thinks about that? And at some point, my brother got caught in between two of my cousins, one on each side. So he tries to slam to a stop, and he slides right under the railing. Now, next to the treehouse was a big-ass tree, because that's the point of a treehouse, is to be in and around trees. Now, I don't know if my brother was trying to stop himself or just kind of grab onto something to slow himself down. But somehow, on the way down, his face scraped the side of the tree. His whole face. Whole side of his face. His face and the tree bark had a committed relationship of their own on the way to the ground. So he comes home that weekend. His face is all scrapped up. He wasn't allowed to fall asleep because they were pretty sure he had a concussion. They might have taken him to the hospital. I was little too, so I don't really remember. I I remember sitting with him, reading stories, playing, watching cartoons, whatever I could do to keep him awake. Now, if that wasn't enough, what makes the part of this weekend truly legendary is he also fell out the front door when the screen didn't latch right. And then later on, his hand got shut in the car door. Yeah, see the one-sided committed relationship here? So one weekend, a mad treehouse, a defiant screen door, and a blind car door, apparently. 3 separate incidences. My brother, that weekend, was in an unwanted relationship with both Lady Luck and apparently Gravity. My mom even had to take him to school and explain to them what had happened over the weekend, because she didn't want them to think that he was being abused at home. And the relationship with Uncle David, the trips remained consistent, to the point that when he would call to ask to take my brother somewhere with all the kids, my mom's first question was always, was my aunt going to be there? Some relationships just have a pattern, even if you love each other. Every relationship, every single one, is a series of ongoing choices. The choice to show up, the choice to communicate or shut down, the choice to stay, sometimes the choice to go. And none of those are just a one-time decision. They get made over and over again in small moments, hard conversations, and in the quiet ways you either turn towards or away from someone. This myth that good relationships just magically work without any effort is one of the most damaging things that we've absorbed from movies and music and basically every piece of romantic media that we've ever consumed. Those easy connections, the one that require nothing from you and you don't give anything back, those are acquaintances. Those really aren't real solid relationships. Relationships worth having require effort. That doesn't mean that they should feel like a second job, don't get me wrong, but it does mean that showing up even when it's inconvenient, communicating something hard when it would just be easier to let it sit, and choosing the other person on days when it would be easier to just choose yourself. And then there are the gray areas. You can love someone and know the relationship isn't healthy. You can outgrow someone. You can change while somebody else stays the same. You can grow in 2 different directions. There's a reason that saying exists. Some people are in your life for a season, and some are just for a reason. Not every connection is meant to last forever, and that is not a failure. That's just how human beings work. We are not the same people at 40 that we were at 20, or we shouldn't be. And the people who were exactly right for us at 20 might not be right for us now. That is painful and true at the same time. Remember, 2 things can be true at once. The difference between giving up on a relationship and releasing it with intention is huge. When you give up, you're walking away with resentment or exhaustion without ever really coming to a conclusion of what it was. When you release with intention, it's acknowledging that you both gave what you could. It served a real purpose, but it doesn't have to keep going now just because it once mattered then. There's this quote from Tupac I love. I love quotes. I still want to see you eat, just not at my table. Reciprocity, tongue-tied on that word, is worth naming too. I don't do things for other people expecting something in return. That's just not how I operate. But I do get to a point sometimes where it looks like you realize that you're the only one who's been giving, showing up, checking in, giving, and in return, you only get something when they need something from you. Other than that, it's silence. And it's not malicious silence necessarily, but an absence. And when that becomes the pattern, it's worth asking whether this is a relationship you should continue to give into, or is this just a habit you got in and you need to put a stop to it? Because you deserve people who will choose you back when you choose them. All right, coffee crew, get yourself a fresh cup. You're going to need it. As always, we date and timestamp these brews news. It is May 27th, 2026, 7:04 a.m. Yes, my internet was out yesterday. Everything's been pushed back. We've had a big week here on multiple fronts. Story one, as always, is the Epstein update. And let me tell you, Lutnick stepped in it again. At this point, he can't seem to stop stepping in it. It's like the gum's stuck on his shoe. So FEC filings made public this week revealed that Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick made a $5 million donation to the Congressional Leadership Fund. That is the main super PAC that supports House Republicans and Speaker Mike Johnson. On April 1st, 4 weeks after the House Oversight Committee arranged to interview him instead of a deposition about his Epstein ties. The donation went directly to the same committee structure that includes the members who sat across from him from the table on May 6th. His spokesperson said he donated it in a personal capacity, as other cabinet secretaries have done in the past. Though legal experts noted that a $5 million donation from a sitting cabinet secretary is unusually large, and the timing does not give off good optics. Democrats are calling it what it looks like. Bondi's interview is still on for May 29th, so that's in a couple days, which means next week for our season finale, we should have a big update on Bondi. Remember, if you want to read the files, it's justice.gov/Epstein. Now, story two, the Anti-Weaponization Fund and tax immunity. And we're going to break these two apart, even though they're from the same filing, because they both deserve to be understood clearly. Now, some of you may seen the J6 slush fund story. So what is it in actual, human terms, not legalese? The Trump administration settled a lawsuit that Trump filed for $10 billion against the IRS, which was already an issue because the person suing is also the person who's in charge of the department that fights the lawsuit. So he dropped the lawsuit in exchange for the creation of a $1.776 billion fund called the Anti-Weaponization Fund. The dollar amount is not coincidental. It's a direct reference to the 1776, the same number January 6 rioters chanted as they breached the Capitol. And I know, I watched it live. The fund is designed to compensate people the administration deems victims of government weaponization. January 6 defendants pardoned by Trump are eligible to receive money from it. Now, the two Capitol police officers who defended the building that day, Harry Doon and Daniel Hodges, have sued to block the fund, calling it the most brazen act of presidential corruption this century. You know, if you support law enforcement, I'm not surprised if you're furious about this, because the police who defended didn't get, but the people who attacked are getting a paycheck. Now, buried in the same settlement is something that got less attention, but deserves more attention. There was a one-page addendum signed by acting AG, the guy who took over for Bondi, Todd Blanche. And it states that the federal government is, and I'm going to quote from the document directly, forever barred and precluded from prosecuting or pursuing any tax claims against Trump, his family members, the Trump Organization, and related trusts and affiliates, covering all tax returns before the settlement date. The former IRS commissioner under the Biden administration said that he could not recall any precedent for the IRS agreeing in advance to permanently forego reviewing returns for a specific person or business. Now, the Justice Department is saying it only covers existing audits and not future ones, which would still be what they're estimating to be upwards of $100 million of tax liability just poof, forgiven. Legal experts are also warning that the broad language is enough that it could function as a permanent shield, meaning 2 years from now, his daughter decides not to file a tax return, there's nothing they can do. You know, or they file it and they don't claim income. There's nothing they can do. So I'll let you sit with that. This connection kind of directly ties what we talked about in episode 13 and 18. It's the same system, again, just a new outfit. All right, we're going to do our last topic segment on something I mentioned in segment 1, but I think it deserves its own space. And that is the relationship with yourself. Now, this is a relationship you can't opt out of, and it's probably the most important one you will ever have. It's the only relationship that's present for everything. Every hard conversation, every quiet morning, every moment when you're doing well and, you know, enjoying life, crocheting, having your coffee, all that good stuff, gaming, whatever. And every moment when you feel broken and lost. You are the only person who will be there for 100% of your entire life, start to finish. Through the good, through the bad, and all the coffee time moments in between. And that relationship matters. Earl, our self-doubt voice for new listeners, is a big part of that relationship. And my old therapist, I said before, has the best response to Earl. He is not a reliable source of information. Basically, that bastard lies all the time. So don't believe him. That voice is often formed before you were old enough to even understand kind of what it was and what was shaping it. And I know for me, a lot of it came from my childhood. Which is why when my kids were in their younger years, I always made it a point to say to them every night before bed, I love you forever and ever, no matter what. And then they would say it back. Because if they know that I love them no matter what, then they can start to learn to love themselves no matter what too. You know, that's a relationship that is worth building as early as you can. Especially because as I get older and become teenagers, I really have to fight with myself not to strangle them like Homer did Bart Simpson. And isn't that a kick in the ass? You know, Simpsons are old, so going from seeing yourself as Bart to seeing yourself as Homer is eye-opening. The way you talk to yourself when nobody's listening matters more than you know. You know, I used to tell people, say what you want to me because whatever it is, I can promise you, I have said way worse to myself. And that's a real thing that a lot of us do, but we don't talk about. The internal monologue is often meaner than anything somebody else would say out loud. You would never think of talking to someone you love the way you talk to yourself. And we think that, you know, it's okay. So here's a note to pay attention to the double standard when you're being mean to yourself. It's also worth knowing a good relationship with yourself is not toxic positivity. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's not I never make mistakes or I'm always right, or pretending that everything is fine when it's clearly not. It's more like when, not if, but when I make a mistake, I will own it. I will figure out what went wrong and I'll try to do better. But I'm going to make mistakes, and that's okay. If you never think you're wrong, you can't grow. So knowing that you can be wrong and actively working to do better, that's the goal. That is what a healthy relationship with yourself actually looks like. You're allowed to be a work in progress. You do not have to have it all figured out to be worthy of a good relationship. None of us do or will ever have it all figured out. We're all making this shit up as we go. You don't have to be fully healed to deserve love from other people, but more importantly, from yourself. You're allowed to still be building while you're also being built. The work in progress is not the waiting room for the real version of you. It is the real version of you. One fixed crack at a time. All right, coffee crew. Time for Shuffle Happens. We are almost at the end of the Suit of Wands. So let's take a deep breath. Let me ground you out before we send you back into the chaos. This week's card is the Queen of Wands. So let the imagery take you away for a nice small break. In the center is the Queen. She is a strong Black woman. She's wearing a flowing, wrapped red dress, deep and warm, the color of power. Around her neck is a group of golden necklaces. Across her forehead sits a strong gold crown. Her hair is a full, beautiful afro, and her face is strong and determined. She's not angry. She's not sad. Not forming happiness. She's just certain. She knows who she is, and she is confident in that and in her power. Her eyes are looking straight ahead, ready to meet whatever is looking back at her. In one arm, she holds a gray lynx. The lynx is looking off to the side, watchful, taking its cues from her. It's not alarmed, not bracing for impact, just alert and present, trusting the queen that is holding it. The relationship between them is calm and grounded. In her other hand is a candlestick, and from it burns a magical candle. Flames, not just at the top of the candle, but glowing around the sides, alive. The light from it catches the gold of her accessories. It also catches the gold accents on the wall behind her. The whole scene is lit from within. She is not waiting to be ready. She already is. She's not afraid to let you know it. Upright, the Queen of Wands is confidence and warmth in equal measure. She knows who she is, not in an arrogant way, in a settled way. She has done the work of knowing herself, and it shows. She leads not with force, but with presence. People are drawn to her fire because it is a genuine. This card shows up when you are stepping into a version of yourself that you have earned. When you have done enough inner work that you are starting to trust yourself. When you know who you are and you are ready to bring that to everything. Your relationships, your work, your life. Reversed, the Queen of Wands asks, where are you dimming your fire for somebody else's comfort? Where are you making yourself smaller to avoid outshining, to keep the peace, to not seem like too much? This card reverse is not failure. It is a reminder. Your light doesn't diminish anyone else's light. You are allowed to take up space. Stop apologizing for how brightly you burn. The queen does not look behind her. She looks ahead. She holds the fire and the links, and she is standing in her knowing. So take some of her confidence with you for the week. All right, coffee crew. Every relationship reflects something back at you, including and especially the one with yourself. The gray areas are a problem to be solved, not a math equation. They're where a majority of real relationships actually live. We have one more episode after this, and we will wrap up season 2. And then I will take a break. And I will be honest, I do not know exactly how long of a break, because my anxiety will absolutely be in my ear, yelling at me that you're going to forget me if I don't make a new episode. And that's a me issue, not a you issue. I also might mess around a little bit with the format during break. I've had people ask, and I'm thinking about maybe doing like a guest spot once a month. Not an interview, so don't think this is not becoming that. It'll still be a conversation over coffee. It'll just be me and somebody else having a conversation over coffee and bullshitting. You just get to tag along. We'll see. But either way, I love all of you, and I will be back, I promise. Also, a quick milestone update. My episodes are now regularly hitting at least 100 downloads a piece, which is mind-blowing. But, you know, always got to push for more. Always got to have a goal. I would like to get that to 200 for every episode. And you know how we do that. Share the show. Apple, leave a review. Comment, subscribe, tell your crafting group, friend, whoever. Someone you like, someone you don't if you don't enjoy the show, I guess. Every single one of those things feeds the algorithm monster, and we all know that she is constantly a hungry bitch. You can find us on Instagram at coffee.crochet.conversation. Facebook, you can search the show name. It's all in the link tree. Come hang out. Show me what you're working on. Whatever. And as always, coffee crew, keep your stitches sassy, your coffee strong, and your spirit grounded.